Hello dear viewer and welcome to the second Lunar Nebula art video. I'm going to try to go through a little bit more of the process I do in creating art on Affinity Designer. Part of it is just so I can record it and see how long it takes me. And hopefully I can speed up a lot of it for you guys. But right now I'd just like to go through a little bit of Affinity Designer. What I try to do is keep things in project folders on here, and the way to make a project folder is you click New Project from the plus sign at the top. You can name your project something, blah blah blah. I do wish at some point they will make it easier to move things into projects, because right now you try to tap and hold on that little 3 slash marks. You can try to move something in there, and it worked that time, but half the time it goes into the wrong folder, which really does annoy me. Regardless, you can move something out of a project. It's just a little quality of life thing I hope Seraph will figure out later. We're going to go figure some stuff out. So, one of the first things you'll want to do is have some art references. Now, I really like Fire Emblem characters like Ellawood, Ike, Hector, etc., etc. Hector's armor is pretty cool, so what I'm going to do is actually leave this, go to DuckDuckGo, and we are going to look for Hector Fire Emblem. Yoink. Images. So yes, as you can see, this is kind of the original Hector design. I'm going to try to just add it to photos, because sometimes you can copy and paste successfully into Affinity Designer. Most of the time it doesn't seem to work for me. Let's see. So from the triple dots, yeah, as you can see, paste is not an option. So, since we added it to photos, we can go place image, import from photos. I'm going to choose recents. I'm going to choose Hector. And then you drag. Yoink. And you can always resize it after you place it and everything. But if you misplace it, or if you need to delete it or anything, then there's a thing that you will have to replace the image. Now, as you can see, Hector kind of disappears, and so on and so forth. However, that's just it adding Hector's photo to the artboard. If you move it out of the artboard, then he is more visible. I recommend when you first create a project, so new document, that you activate transparent background and create an artboard. I think that just makes life easier. You can create more artboards in the future if you want, once you've done that, and it won't screw up your canvas design. On my first Spider Sona pass-through, I didn't have multiple artboards activated, and it nearly screwed up the entire project. So, I like having artboards active immediately, because then it doesn't screw up all of your art process as much. To add a new artboard, you can go here to Artboards, you can drag and drop, you can click that plus sign on the bottom, etc., etc. Well, yeah. And then, of course, you can delete those artboards as well. Just go in here, select the artboard, and there you go. So that's a little bit of an Affinity Designer tip. We want to move Ike out of there. Yoink. Delete that artboard, delete that artboard. So yeah, we added quite a few artboards. I like being able to see my reference images pretty quickly, so we might actually minimize Hector. There we go, because I do like zooming in and all that. First things first, let's get a normal background set up. So we're going to have this square. We'll just make it, yeah, pure white. We'll turn up luminance all the way on that HSL slider. Now it's pure white. You can do things like add a gradient with the fill tool. Let's try... I usually don't use conical gradients. Oops, that was the bitmap. Let's go with elliptical for now. Maybe add a little bit of ambiance. Okay. Now with the gradient, you can basically figure out where the outer bounds of the whiteness will be. can move stuff in, etc., etc. Just play around with them. That's what I recommend. Okay, so we've got that set up. Now, for reference, I'm going to my Assets panel, so I can just insert quickly my little avatar. Now, as you can see, apparently when I saved it, I don't know if this is going to be more of a thing or not. This is another reason why I activated artboards earlier. But when I'm pasting my assets nowadays, it's including an artboard. I don't necessarily like that. It's pretty easy to, you know, just do this. Pull it out of there. Destroy that artboard. But still, it's an extra step that I'd rather not have to do. We're going to pull them into our normal artboard. Because the artboards can interfere with each other and mess with your ability to tell where things actually are in the document. So this is the color palette that I've currently got for my avatar. That's mostly just for reference. We're going to go ahead and lock that. You can still make it fade away, but locking it means I can't just move it around. I can't alter it in any way by accident, which you'd be surprised. Sometimes it's pretty easy to do. So locking it is pretty helpful. And then, let's see. I do like Ellawood's pose. We don't want to make it the exact same. That would be plagiarism. So, but Ike though. I love his cloak, even though it's kind of tattered. Because Ike lives on the edge. He's part of the Grail mercenaries. They aren't as well taken care of as nobles like Ellawood and Hector. I do love Hector's armor, so I might try to get some of that. We'll see. But I am thinking of more of a rapier or maybe a spear design. So, I might have to look for a character with a spear. Let's go ahead and move Ellawood in. That's a pretty good size for a character that we're going to try to make. Now we can try to just lock Ellawood in. And if we really wanted to, we could actually go to our pixel persona. From the pixel persona, we can select the white background. Right now, it shouldn't add any parts of Ellawood in, but you can definitely work on that. Right now, we don't need to refine any edges or anything, it looks like. We'll get our eraser tool. On the desktop version, you can just click delete. In this version, I haven't seen anything like that. Maybe it's underneath here. I guess we could cut. And just never paste ever again. Yeah, there we go. Let's see, I'd like to deselect. So we're going to go to this X in the bottom left above the magnet tool. Okay. And now we don't have that white background. So that should be pretty helpful. Once again, we're going to lock Ellawood. There we go. And now, periodically, I would recommend clicking the back arrow. And that will let us save it. We'll save that. I'll save it to iCloud Drive. I currently have it set up to automatically save to iCloud Drive. But you can make it just save on your device instead. You might want to use the pen tool instead of an overall shape. And when you click the pen tool, you can kind of click and drag. Okay. Personally, I think I prefer using the nodes afterwards and then dragging. That seems to add less issues like this. Okay. We will transform into a smart node. I generally like smart nodes better than smooth nodes. They just seem to do a better job usually, but not always. Okay. Alright. If we go back to the pen tool, we can use the fill. Yeah, I'll use the last fill we used, which was a gradient in this case. Kind of like Ellawood's skin tone, so we'll use that. That's the shadow skin tone. There we go. Alright, now the top of the head I'm not too worried about because we are going to cover that up with hair. But it does look a little funky right now. However, I'm liking how the cheeks look and everything. Okay. Yeah, and I do want the smart note there. I think that looks better. Just so you can see, I'm going to undo that quickly. It's a little bit of a sharp angle. 3 fingers to redo. And now that looks smoother to me. And I like that better. Okay, and if I want to, I can decrease the opacity. Okay, so we can see how that goes. I can even make that a little bit skinnier. So that's somewhat akin to a Fire Emblem egg-shaped head. Alright, this was the first game I played, was Fire Emblem in the West, but I believe it's Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, or Fire Emblem 7 in Japan. Roy's was Fire Emblem 6, if I remember correctly. We've got some spiky hair that we can try to do. I think we'll work on the facial features first, though, because then the hair can go over everything we're doing. Let's work on it. We're not going to use a fill anymore. We are going to increase the stroke. Let's go ahead and make that, yeah, like 1 pixel in width. And we can still change this stroke as well. And you can do it from here. You can slide your finger up and down on the iOS version. Let's make it like 0.5. I should make that smooth as well over here. And as you noticed, I did accidentally activate some stuff. Let's see. Make that sharp? No. Make this sharp. Yeah, sometimes making things sharp will help you get straighter lines, so then you can figure out how to change it later. Okay. So we did that. And now I'm going to go back to this curve. We're going to take our move tool, 2 fingers on the screen, drag, that'll duplicate. We can do this. That'll be a lip in later. Okay. We could expand that out. And then we can use a Gaussian blur on it. Let's try something like this. And then we can actually change that to the darker tone. Okay. Then we're going to go to our effects. Gaussian blur. 2 might be too much. I'll try it. I might actually make this a little bit darker by decreasing the luminance, just so it's more clearly a shade. We'll try that. Okay. So we've got all that. We can now group them together if we want. Okay, and what I did here was I selected 1 layer, and you can use 2 fingers, or you can swipe left and right on the layer to select multiple layers. The 2-finger thing can take some time to get used to, especially since most fingers are a little bit different in size. You do need both of them at the same time, and if you like try to done it, where you do 1 finger and roll it over to the other, it will not work. We could just duplicate this line again. Move the duplicated line over here. Yeah, maybe. But why do more work when you can do less work? Let's see, can we just go from here and just do that? We can. And we did. Okay. Now, is that all one curve? It is all one curve. Good. Because if this was separate, let's just break that for funsies. You can select the nodes and then use close or join. In this case, we want join. Close went from both endpoints, it looks like, and made it one, which is why it had a connector from the beginning to the end. Okay, I'm still learning that. I'm not as used to it. Now, for the nose, we want it to be a little cooler looking. We want some line variation here. So we're going to do something like that. There we go. Alright. For this nostril, why don't we do something similar? We're going to select a different layer. Hilariously enough, it did that. It chose this color. Now, because we've done this whole thing, it's going to keep that as our normal. To reset that, you double-click one of the nodes, click Reset Pressure. It'll go back to normal. Of course, honestly, it might have looked better before. Yeah, I'd say just play around with this each time. It's usually a little difficult to see what exactly things are going to look like until you just mess around with it. There we go. There's a nostril. And then once again, we could just duplicate this. We're going to put this beneath our nose. So those black lines are clear above this. So as you can see, they're not covered up by this. If we had just duplicated, it'd be over. Okay. Looks like the Gaussian blur went away for some reason. Let's do 2 pixels up. Right. So yeah, that's where sometimes this can get a little annoying. There we go. Okay. So those effects are back on. Now make it wider. Or not. There we go. Alright. In fact, you know what? We are not going to do that. We are going to use an ellipse here, or a triangle. Triangle would work. We're going to get rid of the stroke. Get this back. And as you can see with the node tool, right now there are no nodes to select. You have to go to the shape tool, make it go to curves, and then you can see the nodes. And then you can really alter the shape how you want to. Accidentally selected that, apparently. Thankfully, the undo is just that double tap. I'm going to do something like this. Okay. There we go. So now, we're going to copy this one. We're going to go back and do paste effects. There we go. And we can delete this thing that we don't want, and then we have a better shading of the nose right there. Okay, and if we wanted to, we could maybe do a little gradient, make part of it darker. Yeah. That seems to work. If I do like that. Okay, we're going to go back to the node. I don't like how that part is looking. There we go. Alright. So that's looking better. And we're getting the face down. Okay, now to keep all the nose parts in one group, we're going to do this. I'm going to swipe to the left or the right, and then we're going to click this thing right here to group. If you don't like a group, later on you can just do ungroup. We're also going to name this. We're going to go to the ellipses in the circle over here. You click on the text of the name. Right now it's group. You can use your microphone. Nose. So that works, and then we can clearly see the text even if the image kind of goes wonky later on. Like as we saw earlier, you couldn't see this Elwood photo earlier when we converted it and gotten rid of its background, but now you can. So we got all that. Nice. Let's work on the eyes. Okay, so let's figure out what kind of angles we want on these eyes. We are going to put this above all this other stuff within this group still. So as you can see, the group is still selected. But maybe I should keep it outside the group. No, I will keep all the face stuff in the face group. Let's see, I want it a little bit lower. There we go. We'll do something like that. Color, we want black again. Alright. Then, actually, let's just have this one be smart. Everything else can be sharp still. Good. Let's try something like that, maybe. Okay. You can increase the stroke. Maybe make that a little bit thicker. Alright. Not bad. Okay. In fact, I probably should have done this part after I designed the inside of the eye, so it would go above that. But oh well. Something like that. Maybe add a little bit of a rotate. And then let's see. I think we just need to decrease that. Maybe we just reset the pressure. And then something like that. Okay. It can be kind of difficult to get these nodes to look sharp. If you do want them to be sharp, then it might be better to use a shape, like a square or a rectangle. And then just rearrange that. So we'll get rid of that node. As you can see, you can make these shapes quite small, etc., etc. Anyway, just a little tip I found for this program at least. Sometimes it's easier. So we're going to go down a layer and then make the eyeball. Don't worry, it will not remain this color. Actually, that isn't bad. We do want to flip the gradient though. Let's reverse, no, rotate. Doesn't want to do any of that. Fair. So we will have to manually do it. Okay. Because the eye basically is shaded a little bit more at the top due to your brow being above it and the eyelids as well, as far as I am aware. and then reflected light can pop off the bottom. So that's why you generally get some highlights up at the top of the eye where it's darker, and at the bottom of the eye when you want to make them pop. That's when there's a lot of light around and it's bouncing all over the place. Okay, now let's actually make this darker. Make it closer to my eyeball from my avatar. And heck, I can even look at my eyeballs from my avatar. You know what? Better plan. Yoink. Okay. And I'm using 2 fingers to scroll right here. Yoink. Now for this eye, I believe I just made a shadow, so I didn't even use a gradient really. We'll try a gradient for now. That seems to accomplish the same job. So yeah, there are multiple ways to do things in art generally. Yeah, we're making a little bit shinier on the bottom. Okay. So we got that. Speaking of shiny, let's add some. Actually, let's go over here. Luminance. Saturation doesn't really matter once you have full luminance with HSL. On the color wheel, you can just, you know, drag it all the way to white. I like the sliders because then you can more, I guess, mathematically, more, I don't know, more perfectionistically mess with colors and stuff. Anyway, am I making this eyeball too... Okay, does Elowood just have one shiny? He has one major shiny and one minor shiny. Okay, major shiny is obviously big. Minor shiny, what I mean by that is that it appears we need to clip this into the bottom of the eye, and then we're going to do a Gaussian Blur. Gaussian Blur is your best friend in this. Let's do that. Paste that effect. Voila. Minimal shine. In fact, let's do something like that. And then we will actually select the color again. Decrease the luminance. Do something like that. So then it still looks like a similar color. Because that's what I think Elowood's eye looks like here. Yeah, it's just kind of a brighter version of his normal eye color. Okay. And then we just need a dark pupil. Alright. And we want that behind the shine to make the shine really pop. Okay. So for that, we'll just duplicate. We'll need to move shine up. And there we go. And then you become the opposite of what you are right now. Let's do that. A little bit of an anime eye. In fact, we might move that shine over a little bit. Or make it bigger. We can make it bigger. There we go. Alright, so we're starting to get what we want. And then behind this eye, we're going to want a nice white area for the sclera. That's the white of the eye. A little anatomy lesson there. Let's move this up. Oh. Okay, we're going to have to do the node tool here. Because I want the black stroke to cover up the sclera. Okay. So now we go into here, Let's make that white. And we can add a little bit of that nice curvature. Okay, and we can make the eye clip into that sclera. Yoink. That's not what I wanted. There we go. So now, if you saw earlier, the eye is popping out a little bit above the black of the eyelash, but once we clip it, it's actually not that bad. So another way to have done this, just for edification, we're going to move this out of the sclera, because if I didn't want to mess with all the colors that much, and really focus on how I did it and all that, blah blah blah, I can duplicate this, move it to on top, we can transform it to pure black. We'll actually keep that to the eyeball. Right there. Well, we can make that darker. There we go. And then we wouldn't have to necessarily figure out the gradient that much, right? It's a little less work. And we want that to apply to the sclera. So let's try to do... Okay. Is that the wrong color? Ah, we could do opacity as well. That's probably what we want. There we go. That's a little bit. We can just turn down the luminance all the way so it's pure black. Looks a little bit like a cooler shadow that way as well. Most shadows are cooler. Okay. But you can make them warm if you want. And what that means is if we used a redder color, and slightly higher luminance, you can see a redder shadow. And warm colors are usually like yellow, red, orange. Yeah. Cooler just usually means bluer. Okay. So that covers the sclera and the eye, and the highlight is still very bright, so that makes the highlight pop more. Contrast. Contrast is key. And then we can group those together. Yoink! And then we have an eyeball we can copy. And we can also group the eyelids and lashes. Those are just lashes, not lids. So, we have an anime eyeball. Though honestly, I think I need to work harder on this. To make it look more like his anime eye. There we go. And I need to make that a little bit better. Okay. You want to select that. Pull that in. There we go. I think we like that a little bit better. Okay. Just trying to see what shape I like better for this eye. I think this one. Or that one. We'll go with that one. Okay. That's the nice part about vector art, is that you can really fine-tune it. Right? And actually we do need to have a little bit of a blur on this. So we will paste that effect again. But we're going to make it a less... Actually, yeah, 0.6. That looks good. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, computer, for figuring out what I wanted. So yeah, we've got an eyeball. We can now basically use the move tool, 2 fingers, move it to where we want. Yoink. And as you can see, you do want to flip your art to see if it looks a little bit wonky at times. It does feel wonky in this way. Plus, we do want to make it match this other eye over here. So the real question is, does it look wonky? I think the answer to that is yes. So we can fine-tune it some more. Okay. Yeah, I think we want something more like that. So as you can see, vector art can take quite a while just because you can get lost in the details. Okay. I think we like that. And actually, we may want a darker stroke just to make it look like there's a little bit of shadow around this eye. So let's choose black real fast. We'll make it really skinny. Like a 0.2. Even that, though. Let's add some more lumens to that. Could make it skinnier. Different parts. Yeah, I want that side to be even thinner. Okay, so we can do something like that. And once again, we can duplicate it and flip it to see if it feels weird. You do need the move tool selected to flip. If you have the node tool, it's still going to look meh. It's going to try to flip the node instead of the actual object that you want to flip. So okay, that's a thing. One reason it feels weird is because the highlights on the eye are facing the wrong direction. We can easily fix that, at least for the eyeball part, by flipping it again. The highlight we will have to move manually. Well, there we go. Actually, boop. Oh, there we go. There's that accidental selection. And that's why the undo move thing is your best friend. Okay, so yes, we will definitely need to maneuver this eye to look better, because it is bigger, it's closer to us, and really, all we have to do is follow the eye behind it. So yeah, we want to make this eye look like the eye behind it. It's going to take some finagling, but we'll get there. So, in fact, it might even be easier if I flip this around a bit, and then yoink, maybe. Do that, something like that. Let's try to get that. I'm going to play with these nodes a little bit. Try something where we mess with that. Okay. It's a little bit better. Still feels weird, but just remember when you zoom out, it'll be a lot harder to tell. We are working at a very high scale, so that is nice. You can make more mistakes this way. In fact, maybe this is why it looks weird. Let me set the pressure. Maybe not. Let's do a little bit and a little bit. Okay. Liking that better. Maybe get rid of both of those. Looks a little funky, but we can change that. Okay. I think that looks a little bit better. Sometimes fewer nodes equals better nodes. Okay. Especially when you're trying to get smooth stuff. Let's see, is that about... Let's increase Elwood. And by increasing Elwood, I mean do that. Okay. So that's the lower eyelid. We will move up a little bit. Actually do something like that. Okay, so something like that. The sclera is a very different shape here. Let's see. Move you out here. Same with this one. Okay, we might need another node. Right now we're going to select these three. You tap outside. Let's see, we need that selected first, and then you can hold, you can select a bunch of nodes this way. Okay. Try something like this. It's a little hard to see underneath now. Okay. Now the nice thing is you can turn off the visibility of something and still see the nodes. So that's really helpful for situations like this. Okay, do we need to delete that node? Yes, we do. Okay. And then we want to increase that angle a bit. Alright, that looks a little better. And then try to delete that. And we just need to move this one. That one. Okay. Smart node seems to fix that. Same there. Let's try moving all three of these. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay. Does that look about right? Okay, this eyelash is actually a little bit flatter. Try to do something like that. That looks awkward. I think the main reason is that that is gone. Still awkward looking though. Let's try using some sharp there. Yeah. We could try to make a little bit different end caps, but I think that's what we want. That might be good though. Let's try deleting that one. Okay. I'm liking that better. We could scale with object. I do wish you could change the default of scale with object or not on stroke. That would be nice. There we go, something like that. Okay. Maybe we don't need the stroke on the outside of the sclera here. The dogs may agree. Okay. Let's try to get rid of that real fast. Select you. And honestly, I might be able to just get away with increasing the size. See how that looks. Yeah. And then we need to move this at some point, but first we want to make sure the size is good. Yeah. That should do. And we can do that. Maybe make that bigger as well. Since this eye is going to be bigger because it's closer to us. Maybe that's why it looked wonkier. You know what? Let's select both. There we go. Something like that. And then we do still want this eye to be bigger. Let's do that. Let's move this up. Okay. Actually, that seems a lot bigger on this one. Okay. Two curves. Then we can really finagle this better. Something like that. Yeah. Okay. And then we've got our light here. Move that more like that. Is our pupil in the right place? Seems pretty good. Okay. The pupil did not fail me. Alright, so I think we're happy with that eyeball overall. It's just this sclera. Maybe if I make it smart, do something like that. Oh ho ho. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay. So far, so good. So I think we'll focus on just the face this episode. We're almost done. Okay. So we've got our eyes. And now we can figure out eyelashes. Alright, so with the eyelashes, I think we're just going to use the pen tool pretty exclusively. We're going to do something like that. I'm going to make it do that whole thing. Let's increase the width. Alright. And I don't think there's an easy way to reverse the settings. So let's do this. Yeah, and that's practically what we want. Let's see. There we go. Gonna do that. And then we're going to get the hair color, or the eyelash color in this case, of the avatar. And then we're going to go into the stroke menu. I'm going to add a stroke. We're going to make it black, so we can add a little bit of an outline. And then I think let's deal with object. We definitely want that, I think. Join a line. Let's go with that for now. Definitely not this. Let's try one. So it's pretty hard to see. In fact, I think it's still behind. If I turn up the brightness of my screen a bit. There we go. There we go. Okay. So... for some reason... yeah. It's not currently copying the stroke of our previous one. So we actually need to increase that. So if we did want to copy the stroke style of our last one, don't think we really can at this point in time. But I could have gone in, clicked copy, and then paste style. And then maybe that would have worked on this stroke as well. But usually that is applying to all the strokes you do, as far as I can tell. Let's decrease that. Decrease this a little bit. Oop. Okay. So yeah, what's nice is now we can duplicate this. Move it over. Yoink. Okay. Now, let's see which one do we have selected. Still the black stroke. I don't think we can select both strokes at the same time. Okay. Well, let's try that for now. What we might do is just move the curve of the nose to better move into this. Okay, in fact, we could do, I think I still want it there, but we could move this below the nose. So then the nose, cover it. Yeah, I think that works. We just need to finagle that a bit. There we go. And then... we probably can't group the eyelashes now, but that's alright. Let's try to make this a wee bit shorter. And same for our other stroke. A wee bit smaller. There we go. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. And then we probably just want to finish up with the ear and shading the face. And then we won't worry about the tiara or anything yet. I guess that's a circlet, not a tiara. Tiaras are pretty exclusively female as far as I'm aware. Circlets, however, anybody can wear a circlet. It's unisex. Okay. Yeah, we'll move over here. And then we'll make the ear. So, we're not going to worry about our stroke just yet. Okay. Now, reset the pressure. Let's make this a lot skinnier. There we go. Let's use a fill. And instead of that, we'll use that. Okay. Does this have two strokes? No. The fill and the stroke, we're going to swap them. There we go. Okay. Let's get some more saturation in that fill. And is its opacity different? No. Guess we'll figure oh, it's probably because of this. No. So opacity can be interesting. Keep an eye out for it. Oop. let's go back to the ear. Let's try to make sure we've got this where we want it. Okay. I don't think we need that mode. Alright. We can add a little bit of curve. There we go. Why are you so interesting right now? It's probably to do with the stroke settings. Because right now you can see the stroke that's behind it. Just for grins, we can change that so that it's on top of the fill. So you can see the difference behind the fill, on top of the fill. This kind of gives you a little more flexibility of how much you want to peek out behind it, or if you want to control more of how it looks overall. But I usually like this setting better in terms of making the stroke peek out a little bit. This is kind of nice if you want a fuller looking stroke. Yeah, anyway. Let's see, do we want to do anything else with this here? Yeah. We do need underneath it the rest of the ear. So let's do that. We'll go up here. Fill out that ear. Redo that. There we go. Then we can fill that with a darker color later. Or we could do that. Something like that. Okay, yeah, I could swear... yeah, opacity of the fill. That's what I thought. So why didn't this one? It did, okay. There we go. So yeah, now we've got all that. And then if we want to, we can change the opacity of the layers. I want to group, not merge. Merge is more of a raster layer thing. So yeah, there we go. And then we can add more stuff to the ears later. But for now, not terribly concerned about it. Let's get rid of that stroke. Okay, put that opacity back up. Same with you. So there we have a Fire Emblem face, more or less. But we're going to go back and add some shading. So at least for the face, what we're going to do, take our nice nifty pen tool, figure out where these shadows are going to be. Okay. We're going to pull it out around the head. There we go. We're going to make this black. And then we can change the opacity and everything. Let's get rid of our stroke as well. Oh good, it doesn't have a stroke. Okay. Opacity. Somewhere around 30%. Of course we could just make it the same color as other stuff, but we're going to do that Gaussian Blur thing again. Okay. Copy this. Paste that. Ooh, wrong thing. Paste effects. Effects. Gaussian Blur. What kind of radius do we want on this? Something like that, I think. Okay. And of course we want to clip that into the head. So as you can see, it does make a difference. when we turn on and off the visibility. Of course, we want to make that more of that. There we go. So I think we're pretty happy so far with how this is looking. So we've got our shadows, and of course we can change that color later. We've got an ear, we can add details onto that later. As you can see, we've got the inner ear right there. It's currently covering up that stroke of the face. We can do that to make it look like there's a bit more of a stroke, etc., etc. But yeah, so I'm thinking that's starting to look like a Fire Emblem face. Leave a like if you've enjoyed this episode of Lunar Nebula Art. Subscribe if you want to see more vector art tips and tricks. I'm mostly working in Affinity Designer, but I'm also going to try to do some other like art tip videos and tell people about what resources are available with channels like Ethan Becker, Sycra, etc. And have a good one.